That's a good idea.
Studies for it.
Yeah.
And we haven't even done the city of Trinidad, so the city of Trinidad should, assessed value property taxes should go up tremendously because of all the
Pretty nice, the one in
you got a new shed or something like that, it upgrades your property value, but it's pictometry and a lot of places we can't get into, we use real estate, you know, a lot of lot gates all over the place.
Yeah, it's like, it's
Yeah, our
included.
assessor
Yeah,
tries to
it's
assess
dead.
properties,
It's
there's
dead.
there's no knowledge yet, no.
I'm gonna start the recording.
Okay.
You're kind of young, but when I was in college, probably, there was a book by George Orwell called 1983.
I knew it was,
Yeah.
And it was about Big
Yeah,
Brother. It was
he
all about
makes
Big
reference
Brother.
to that.
I mean, Big Brother was everywhere. There were cameras.
but
They listened to everything we do.
We're gonna.
I'm
We're
shaking
getting
now.
A little late, but we're getting it. Miss Penny.
Oh, he had the truck, I thought
Hey.
you were in his car.
I expect supper to be ready when I get there.
Point made. Even if it's 10 o'clock, right?
Right.
Okay, well, it looks like we have enough to make a quorum here this evening. I did, get a message from, Carol today, Carol Bolton, that she would be unable to make it this evening. She got some personal issues that she's trying to contend with, so she did inform me early on. But luckily, we have 4 to make a quorum here this evening. So, this is April the 11th, 2019. This is the work session of the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. And the work session agenda has 3 items we're going to talk about first, or discuss this evening. But the first thing I want to do is welcome our newest member to the TURA board this evening, Mr. Reese Opus. We welcome you for, we appreciate that you showed interest to come on and have been appointed, and look forward to serving with you as we go.
This month went by fast.
Yeah, did they? Especially when you got a schedule like you've got. Okay, first thing on the agenda this evening, item number 1. Our person from the community that has shown interest and has asked for appointment to the Urban Renewal Authority is Mrs. Sophie Leone, who is in the audience this evening. Want to come forward, Mrs. Leone? How do you prefer that we address you? Mrs. Leone, Sophie?
However,
Well, we can just say, we.
Yeah, it's probably gotta be legal, so it's gotta be so.
Okay.
But you can call me whatever.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, we appreciate that you've shown interest to serve on this board. And we're here in the very recent past, I sent you information regarding what an urban renewal, very condensed 101. But yeah, there's some information there, and I think I sent you something else as well. I don't know what else was, but I tried to send you things that would be informational to you.
Right.
So I will let you introduce yourself. You can tell us about who you are, what you do. We probably all know, but now's your opportunity to blurt it out there.
I'm Sophie Leone. I've lived in this community. I was born in Trinidad. I have ancestors that go back about 200 years. I said, I know all of you. I know you as a baby. That's sad. I'm really sad you guys didn't get a lot more interest and more people involved, but I know how boards are, and you're lucky if you get somebody just to apply anymore. And I wish we could get some younger people involved. I'd love to see some younger people on these boards, but it's really hard. And I'm talking younger, under 40. But I have businesses here in Trinidad. We take care of 2 businesses mainly. It's Leone Sand and Gravel LLC, and SRG's Landscaping Supply, and Leone Ready Mix. I basically wanted to be on the board because this is hard for me. I usually get to do the interviewing. I'm usually in that seat. But Fred had talked to me about it and asked me about it, and I thought about it, and I was driving around, and I thought that is an important part of Trinidad, of the urban renewal, and taking care of the blight, and just helping people get where they need to get rid of some of their properties, or to help build up their properties. Because Trinidad hit a real downfall for a long time, and I think it's really showing now. I know it is around in our neighborhood, and our neighborhood's always been a beautiful, beautiful neighborhood. And that was one of my main interests. I just wanted to, I like doing community work. I've done a lot of community work through the years I've lived here. But I just wanted to be involved and do something good for the community.
Sophie, what other boards are you on now, currently?
I'm not on any right now.
Oh, okay.
I haven't been
You're
on any.
usually really busy.
Well, it took me a few years to get SRBs off the ground. That was busy. And going to different things for that and learning a lot about that. And, I just kind of stepped back for a while. I said, you know how you do things and you do things and you do things, and I just kind of got burnt out. And but I've been on a lot of different committees, and I can't say I've enjoyed every one. I was on a couple boards that I've enjoyed for the city, and I liked the feeling of when I walked away from them that we accomplished something. And that's mainly the reason I wanted to be on the board.
Well, we appreciate your interest. Is there any questions you would have of us that we can possibly answer for you? We do meet the second Thursday of every month here, and the meeting time was recently changed to 5:30. 5:30, a little earlier than we used to. We think the earlier we get in, the earlier we get out.
So, get out. Yes, I was really interested as I was reading. Ed had sent me a bunch of material, and I was really interested in it, and I made a list of all the, I call it the new language, the like ADOs and PWs and MOWs. And it's because sometimes when people talk, I know the first time I was talking to a friend, I thought, whoa, I need to get really going with this because I have no idea what she's talking about. So I made a list. If you'd like one, I'll give you one.
I could use a new acronym list.
But I thought that was interesting, and I was hitting my whole crew today with words, and they had no idea what they meant either. So it's kind of like a foreign language. Each board.
I'll take a copy of that too.
Okay. And but I did have you said two questions. What is an RFP?
Request for proposal.
Can I write that down?
Yes. Those are going to be sent out. I don't know if it's similar to bidding, solicitation, or you put out and you're looking for,
Okay.
whatever it is, you know.
Sure.
You term it several ways, but request for a proposal is just, you know, asking for responses for action of some kind.
And an ROA.
Return on assets.
Return on asset, if it fits in with the financial.
ROI, I'm sorry, it was ROI.
Return on investment.
Return on investment.
Okay. I could not find what it was referring to.
Yeah, and it is, every agency, every board will have unique acronyms.
You're right, and that's part of, as I said, part of it is learning the language, so that you're not lost. And I thought, well, I can keep this in front of me for a while until I know what everyone's talking about. I like the program mission. I thought the program mission was the best part you sent me.
That's right, I sent you a copy of the
Yes.
strategic plan, right? I couldn't remember, it's, the whole brain's not engaging like it should. I did
That's when
provide her.
I sat down and I said, I really hope I get on this board,
Yeah.
because that's very.
Well, and those came from this current board because it had been dormant for how many years? Long time.
A lot of years, it was active
Since
for a few
60s.
years, from 1964 through the 70s, when mission was felt to be accomplished. It went dormant. It was reactivated a couple of times during that period of time, and it was only to dispose of property that the urban renewal had. So it's been, you know, it's you know, and
It hasn't been an ongoing.
it hadn't been, and it was reactivated in 2015 by one of the previous city councils.
But do you have any questions for me?
No, I don't know, does anybody?
I asked my question.
Yes, well, I hope I get on the board, I hope the city council okays me, and I hope I can be part of your board.
Make a copy of that for us. This is my 8th board, so I've got a lot of acronyms.
Yeah, you've got a double acronyms, huh?
Wait, we got time.
Here's a copy.
And then how, yeah,
But you have to write some down.
how long would her term be?
4 years.
Would it be for 4 years? or
There's
2 years?
some of them are and some aren't, right?
No, the only short terms were when the board was
beginning.
originated. Everything
Okay.
else now will be for a set period of time, which is 4 years.
Okay.
So that will be for, and I'm not sure exactly what that be, if it goes to beginning now this month that you've been,
Yeah,
or you go, or it goes back to the February when the last one's expired, but it'll be a 4-year term. I'm certain it'll probably go to April for 4 years.
Okay.
Okay. And I was just telling her out, as I spoke to her briefly out there before we started, I might as well mention it to everybody now. Here in the very recent past, you should have gotten an email from Greg that listed information regarding educational opportunities that are coming up for Mrs. Leone and Mr. Lopez. There are several of them. They're sponsored by Downtown Colorado Incorporated, DCI as it's known, and they have them throughout the state. And I will get you, or have Greg send you the places, the schedule of where there's going to be. The one that's coming up in the most near future is going to be May the 6th in Lamar, and it's tax increment, urban renewal and tax increment financing 101 and 201. So 101 obviously is going to be the most basic, but they are very informative and very helpful. And so if you think you're interested in it, we need to let Greg know so that Brittany can make some reservation, send some money to them. If I'm sure they're, and it's open
Is
to
it just
anybody
a
else.
1 day? A 1 day? Is that what?
Yeah, I believe it'd be 1 day, yeah. But
That's a lot more.
it'll be in Lamar. Actual time and its location, I'm not sure where it will be, but.
The city of Lamar and downtown Colorado, but it doesn't say.
Yeah, we can get you that, but just to let you know that one, if you wanna
That's
save the
closest
date,
one.
then that's the soonest one. There will be additional ones that, like in Denver, that take place usually in mid-year. And though that one is really nice, and you get meet a lot of people, you get to hear a lot of information and their experiences and what they do in their locales. So it's really nice. It's not only you have the people that are,
Yeah,
you
good
know,
ideas.
that will keep you in the loop as far as what's legal and your mission as far as state statute, but there's a lot of people that will give you information as to what they've done in their cities and towns. So we'll get you that information.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Item number 2, acquisition and demo program draft. Now, for information for Mrs. Leone and yourself, Luis, Mr. Lopez, how are you? Mid-year last year, Greg Sund, our executive director, attended a conference in Durango, I believe it was. And from that conference, and it was, I believe, sponsored by DCI. And at that conference, he came forward and brought us some information for us to think about, which we may want to implement in Trinidad for acquisition and demo of blighted properties. And he brought to us a draft and a document. It's actually a document that was put together, and it's utilized in a program in Buena Vista. And so that program, we've been looking at it for several months. We've been dissecting it, trying to reword it, try to change or not change, but to see how we integrate it with what we may want to do, if that's what we want to do in Trinidad. And what it basically is the acquisition and or demolition of this is residential. These are residential properties in and around the community. When urban renewal in Trinidad, for the city of Trinidad, was revitalized, as they call it, back in 2003. I think the planning stages began in 2014, and the revitalization began in 2015, was it not? So when we got appointed, 15, yes.
We got appointed in April of 2014. We had our plan in place by December, yeah.
Okay, so what it was is, the concentration of what was gonna be is downtown area. Urban Renewal decided that it would be, the area of concentration was going to be the downtown area. And that is still our area of focus, but we're trying to look out in other directions to see what else we can do in and around the community. And I'm hoping I'm not throwing out too much information or sidelining a lot of stuff, but I need to bring you all up to speed on what's going on, because we have some things that are going on. So with the acquisition and the demo program, we're looking at it, and Mrs. Villani, Commissioner Villani, has done some work in there, gave us a lot of information in the recent past, where she had gone in and done some demographic information, income information, and other things that are helpful to us to determine how we want to take our program. So you don't have that yet. You would have it in that email that you have, Luis. And so it's a 25-page document. And
I got through about 5 pages.
Yeah, and the first few pages are the ones that are really the meat of it all. I mean, that's the one that will determine what we want to do here. All the rest of it is pretty much boilerplate that we can almost use verbatim, because it just tells you all the procedures by which we would want to continue on. So that, keeping with that, everybody that you were provided a copy of it, friend Commissioner Villani, I think you had something else you wanted to add this month as far as verbiage, or?
Well, actually, what I'd like to suggest is that I went through this document again very carefully, and I have something like 25 points that we need to deal with, and I thought this is way too much for a meeting. My concern, I think this is a great document, a good template. The more I read it, the more I feel that way. So I'm really grateful to our executive director for bringing it back to us. However, I feel that before we can move forward with this, that we really need to define, our goals for this. I get the feeling that Montrose decided what they wanted to do, and then they formulated a document. Montrose. What did I say?
Montrose.
Montrose, I'm sorry. Monta Vista, sorry. And then they formulated a document to achieve their goal. So backing up on that, I'm thinking that maybe we need to have maybe a work session to decide what our goal is, and then how do we tailor this document to our goal. I mean, that particular their particular document is geared towards low and moderate income housing, which it seems like, I think he said, was more low income or HUD housing. I'm not sure. That was quite a way back.
Well, one of the reasons I think that Monta Vista does it their way, from what I can decipher from this and interpret, is that one of the things they had to do is, because of the funding that they get.
Right.
Okay, because you do bring in funding from federal sources and other sources, and I think one of those prerequisites, or the requisite, is that you have to make it available to people of that, what would be termed and based upon the numbers. I mean, it isn't, the connotation of low income or whatever. Sometimes, I don't know, there's other wording for it that would be more appropriate. But I think they set the guidelines of what those numbers are, and in order to make sure that you stay within the guidelines, or you get your funds, you have to make sure you're meeting the needs of that particular segment of the population.
And so and I guess we need to decide, is that where we are going? Because I feel that, and that number, I think there's a lot of definition that needs to take place here, in terms of what are we talking about when we say moderate? What does that mean? What does that income range mean? And some of the language in here speaks specifically to HUD and low-income housing specs. And regulations, and do we want to adhere, I mean, are we needing to adhere to all of that? It speaks, there's a portion in here that speaks only to nonprofit agencies. I mean, are we going to limit it to just nonprofit agencies? I mean, there's a lot of, to me, there's a lot of discussion that needs to be, to come through us to decide where we want to go, what's our focus group, what's our goal, and then tailor this document accordingly. It's a great document, and I think it'll really work, but I've gone through it now probably 4 times and highlighted it and think that maybe we need a special work session to, I have tons of notes here regarding this document, and I don't know how we apply or tailor this document without knowing where we're going with it, or what our goal is.
I agree with you, Fran. I think this document is more than we can work through in or in our regular meetings, and we need to have a special work session to work on it.
Have you been able to pull out enough yet to make an opinion?
I just was worried about insurances, and when it was discussed of possibly helping the property owners of abolishing their property or tearing it down, I believe that discussion was last month, or Craig was discussing that and assisting them if they were willing to assist, or the city of Trinidad, where would the liability fall on if you have an explosion, if you hit a gas line, if you tear something. That's nothing in this document either. So
that responsibility would come because the services would be contracted out. Whether it be a demolition or whether we'd actually enter into the rehabbing and the construction, those things would all be taken to private construction firms. That would actually be within their purview, and that would require that they have their general liability. At worst or best, we'd be the property owner.
I was envisioning Dan Rossetti with a jackhammer going and tearing it down.
When you said that.
We've eliminated that. We already know there will not be city staff doing it.
Okay.
That was one of the first things that was brought out, and Greg does not feel city staff should be in there.
Okay, that covers that one for me.
But
But
not only that, Luis, but inside this document, there's there are appraisals that need to be done, and then one of the suggestions that I think is contractors need to go in and determine, defects of the property and things like that. Or a home inspector, probably a licensed home inspector would probably be a good choice, but they also have a good idea of what the property is once they go in. Don't you think?
And I had some similar thought about this since the last time we met, about we have to create a specific goal before we can have our document fit what it is we're trying to do. But I've had a change of mind, or I've got a different mindset since we've begun talking about this. And I would like to see the actual going in, and rather than us being a part of doing a rehab or whatever else, that we actually be almost going forward with finding properties for demo and create buildable lots.
Well, I think that's a great idea. I think I did talk with the executive director in Colorado Springs, TURA Walker, and one of the things that we have to keep in mind too, that, and he brought to the forefront for me, is that the deficit of contractors that they even have there, and the fact that to build a house at a certain moderate sale price, a contractor basically told him, look, if I'm going to spend my money building a house, I'm going to build a $600,000 home rather than $300,000. We're talking Springs.
Right.
$300,000 home, because it's the same work, and the back end is. So I said, well, how do you overcome that? How do we overcome that then? With you know, here we are in our small community, how do we overcome something like this? And, you know, he said, well, you know, you can do exactly what Ed said, you know, go after lots, then, offer the lot, you know, and work with a contractor on the lot and build it on the back end. And he mentioned several different things that we could do. Also in this document, it talks about prefab and modular homes and things like this, which would cut the cost down to building homes too, you know, for contractors here. So I think that's a good idea. I think
Well, the reason my mindset went in that direction, because you can tour the city and go in almost any area of the town, you're going to see blighted properties that have little to very minimal value. And they're sitting there in a lot of cases just vacant, unoccupied and vacant and rotting day by day. So by taking them out, you're going to eliminate the blight, create a possibility that somebody may want to build, and ultimately bring those properties back onto the tax rolls. And here comes the part that, you know, I guess we're going to get some TIF. So basically, you're going to accomplish 4 things there. You're going to get rid of that blight, build a lot, put something out there that's going to beautify a neighborhood. We get it back on the tax rolls, and when it comes on the tax rolls, the TIF comes back to us. So if we make the lot sellable to somebody who wants to develop or build on it, you know, we do them, you know, get it to them at the lowest cost possible, and then at the very end, in the long term, our return is going to be by getting it back on the tax rolls at current levels and create some tax increment for us.
I had a question as I was going through here. There is this, the properties that we have to look at have to be vacant for 12 months, correct?
Yes.
And then is that mandated by the Uniform Relocation and Real Estate Property Acquisition Act?
I wouldn't be truthful if I told you I knew that, because I don't know.
Okay. The only reason I ask that, because you have a property that's been vacant for 12 months. I mean, the longer that property is well, we're not going into rehab, of course, but the longer it stays vacant, the more deterioration of both the lot and the house are there. And I was just wondering if that 12 months is a mandated time length, or if it's something that can be shortened.
Well, I think if you want to use the word vacant, I think you have to have a reasonable timeline. And I think, you know, once it hits a 12-month mark, you have something to work with. If you try to hone in on it any sooner, you might have some problems, you know, with you had intent. So I think, you know, a 12-month is a good benchmark that, you know, whether it's legal or not, but I think you have to have something to work at. I think anything less than 12 months, you know, is negatable and somebody could argue it. But once it exceeds 12 months, and especially if it's blighted, you know, I don't think if it's something that, you know, we're looking at certain properties under certain not such desirable condition. And I think it would be at that point, it would be, you know, whether we're gonna go for voluntary or involuntary acquisition. I think it's one that, you know, 12 months would probably be the number that would be easiest to work with and be defendable.
Well, this was passed in 1970. So, I mean, I don't know if there's been any updates to it, but in that particular act, it specifies 12 months. So I didn't know whether we were...
It's probably got some volition.
Okay, all right.
So then I guess the bottom line to this is we need to take this particular topic and have a dedicated work session for it aside, and maybe not on a day or time that we have a regular meeting. Sort of a retreat, if you want to call it.
I think that would be really great, because I think we have one goal in mind, and that's to deal with this document. Because it's a powerful document. It's a very usable, powerful document. And if we can get it to the point where we can, you know, we have our goal, we have our what we're going to do with it. I mean, we have teeth.
Well, I would like to defer it, for one, because of all of that, what we've talked about. Two, we don't have a full we still aren't sitting with a full commission, and we have, new commissioners coming on board. And I'd like to be able to give them the opportunity to see that, ask questions, and be able to get their input on it, because what they see and what they may be able to put into it may be quite valuable to us. So I'd like to be able, I hate to keep kicking the can forward, but, or down the street, but I think, we're gonna need their input, and, they need some time to be able to study this and be able to ask their questions as well. So, let's just take it to a future date. That sounds reasonable.
I think that's probably the smart thing to do, to have your board present and fully
Yeah.
staffed,
Yeah.
have the commission
Yeah.
fully staffed. Is the city of Trinidad trying to push this at a faster pace?
Well, I can't say at a faster pace, but the city of Trinidad does have an anti-dilapidation ordinance. And there were several properties on there, and I saw it recently, and I don't remember where the most recent list on it. And of those properties, there are several people that cooperated and did things. Or have done things to the properties to be able to, so they got themselves to some compliance. But there are several of them on there that don't even respond. And so these are properties that, I think that the city, and with discussion with Greg, that maybe they need to be, however the city, because it's under the purview and the jurisdiction of city council right now. So that may be something they want to take from that, bring to us, because with the I don't want to call it power, but with what we're allowed to do through state statute, we can do different things, or actually, I don't know, put teeth to it, if you want to
As
call
Fran,
it.
yeah, as Fran said.
Yeah, and so, those are, they're out there. So those properties do exist, and there are probably some that, or a lot of them that are not even, haven't even been added to that anti-dilapidation ordinance list that, need to be addressed. And I think for the good of the community, is something we need to look at to make it a, what was it intended for?
And I think more brains are better than
Yes,
less,
exactly.
so get more people
Yeah.
to the table.
And it does not, and will not take away from our focus for downtown. It's just that downtown is in a different transition in when, the revitalization of urban renewal began.
Yes.
And so since that has, a lot of properties have changed ownership and a little bit different, although not all of them have progressed to the stage that we would hope they would have. But that's something that we need to consider. So
And speaking of the TIF, when I asked Ms. Tomato at the court, the assessor's office regarding that decrease,
yes,
it's not because anything on the county side, it's because they haven't paid their taxes, property owners. So that's where they collect it
Oh,
from.
okay, they're just collecting the second half now,
Yeah,
right?
so that's probably where the loss.
second half for
Well, actually,
2018.
they're collecting, the second half is not due till June.
Not due till
Yeah,
June, so.
and then, the paying full is the end of this month.
We're talking of 2018 tax.
That's what she's talking about too.
Okay.
They probably didn't pay that then either, probably delinquent.
Okay,
Yeah,
but I think our question was, what we were noticing difference was the difference, because our first tax year was 2016, and we collected roughly $38,000.
It was down to like 32 or
It was
something.
32 for the year 2017, although there was a communication from Mrs. Amato to Greg that we should have been looking at receiving a figure of about $48,000. So that means that maybe we need to communicate with the treasurer's office to see where that is, because she, I have it, and Greg told me that he did, have a communication from Mrs. Amato, and that she showed her numbers that we should have taken in the area of $48,000 for the prior year. which is
43.8.
17.
I have that email in front of me here,
43.
43.8. Tax 17, we should have taken in 33,231, and tax year 18, we should have taken in 43,805.
Yeah, and what she told me is possibly because they didn't pay their taxes.
Yeah.
But they might have, and Donna didn't disperse it, so.
Yeah, so I guess we'll have to find out why it is, just to satisfy our own curiosity, but.
Shit, I got a lot of dirty looks that day.
Yeah, well,
Why are you poking your head around that one?
Well, but may I say something?
Sure.
Louise, I think that I think the message I get is that we don't wanna we don't wanna rush into it, but we don't wanna drag our feet either, with this particular document in the ADO process, because I think the city council would like for us to move forward with it. Is that correct?
Well, they haven't really expressed that, but it would probably be very helpful to them if it came in our direction, because, you know, it is, you know, within, the city's trying to get it to go, but then again, I don't think, you know, there's a lot of other things that probably priorities as well, so
Right.
it might be helpful to come here and let us do something with it, although a lot of it, again, outside of what our area of focus was, which is downtown.
So within another month, I could have my head wrapped around this document and really come up with some concise input. By the time, I think, would it be enough time for Sophie to be appointed, or?
Oh, you will, because from this point forward, then we'll, I'll send notification to city council that she has, been here and fulfilled the requirement that she be at the meeting. And so they'll take it to their agenda, and if it's not this.
I was asked to appear next Tuesday, if I was okay by his commission, and I was asked to appear.
I will, like I did last time, tomorrow, I'll draft a letter and send it to the, to city council so that you can, your appointment can appear on the next agenda.
And then that way we can.
Yeah, it'd be better that we have everybody, a full board. You know, it's one where, you know, we have Carol absent this evening for matters that she needed to address. And then we've got you coming on, first time you actually get to see it. And Mrs. Leone has yet to see it. So I think, yeah, it may take a couple of months for us to be able to, or define a mission, to be able to create, you know, take that, but define a mission of what we really want to do to make the document fit the mission.
And I'm wondering if it might be advisable to include, the attorney, city attorney.
At some point, he will have to be there. Okay, well, then we will just we'll defer that. We'll have some, I can't do much with it next month, but we'll surface for some at least small discussion. Okay. Item number 3, TURA owned properties. In the information that was sent to us by our executive director, and we had mentioned this in prior meetings, the city owns four parcels of land within the city of Trinidad. These parcels of land have been owned for many, many years, probably going back to the mid-1960s when the urban renewal was actually organized and brought into existence. Because the information is sort of sparse on what Mr. Sun said to us, I asked Mrs. Commissioner Matei if she would look into it, and she has provided us with some really nice information as to where those lots are located. So, Mrs. Matei, Commissioner Matei, I will defer this to you so you can explain the information and sort of describe the location of where these 4 lots exist.
Well, let's go to, this here probably is the best one to go to. So they're all color coded, and that tells you which piece of property they are according to their color coding. But the first 2, the one that's in orange here, and the one that's in yellow, I can't see that those are big enough properties to do much with.
That's almost somebody's.
I made, if I can insert here, I called the assessor's office today because they don't give the square footage of these lots. So I wanted to know what the square footage is. So with the one that you're identifying as the orange, and then the other small
Yellow.
one, the yellow, both of those lots are in the Bella Vista area, and each one of them is 3,500 square feet. So you're right, a buildable lot is 6,000 square feet according to the city of Trinidad. So neither one of those properties really have any value except to add to that last lot in Archicone, which is in teal. And so
They're both 3,500 square feet?
they're both 3,500 square feet. Yeah. and then the one in purple, which is Fairview. Now that's a nice sizable lot. They have that down as 13,437.5 square feet. So that gives us 2 buildable lots there on the Fairview lot in purple.
On that one, what I was wondering about is, it is really close to the highway. Does the highway have right of way across these lots, I wonder? Or, you know, they have so much setback?
You mean the setbacks?
I don't know. It was
I
one of the things that I thought were maybe could be possible, especially with that lot in purple.
Well, I think that was something that came up when we sold that land to Triple D for the
Mhm.
natural gas thing. I think there was something that surfaced at that point in time, that there was something that the highway said. Well, I don't know, I think maybe somebody had assumed a boundary further toward, and the highway department or CDOT came back and clarified that no, that's not your land, the fence is actually on our land.
Right.
So there may be some that is, but I don't think it would affect the entire lot. Do we know how many square feet that lot is?
The one in purple is 13,437.
And what about the teal?
The lot in teal is huge. There are lots, they have it broken up into 2 parcels. Lots 1 through 5, 37,800 square feet. And then lots 6 through 9 would be 16,800 square feet.
Wow.
And so that's a lot. And then if you add that 3,500 square feet of
The yellow.
the yellow, then that adds another 3,500 square feet to that lot, which when you think about it, if there aren't any implications as far as the highway, that's a nice portion, that would probably break down into nine buildable lots with some land left over, maybe for some open space. So, you know, that's something that we could, I didn't have a chance to go out and look at the topography of the land or whatever, but it,
This kind of
certainly-
gives you an idea, though.
yeah, it does. Thank you for that. So it's close, but you know,
That looks pretty flat.
it looks pretty flat. So, you know, that might be something that we can look at in terms of when we get this document and an offer for development. Because when you offer a possibility of 9 homes with possibly some open space, then you're looking at a possibility for a contractor to be interested in something like that. So anyway,
That's another lot, though, that is very close to the interstate there.
yeah, it is.
The first one, the one in orange, Mike McMillan and I thought possibly that is part of the community garden.
I don't know.
It's hard to tell from
It
this.
is hard to tell, but it's such a small lot, and maybe, you know, I don't know what you could do with something like that.
Who owns the community garden? City of Trinidad?
Earth Mountain.
Earth Mountain.
Earth Mountain
Earth Mountain.
Education. We used to have the co-op.
Okay.
It's all tied in together. But it's on East White and Linden.
Yep, corner of White and Linden.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's right.
White, which is where there's Linden. This is Buena Vista.
It seems like a community garden is further down than that, but I don't know.
They're on White. And they're on White and Linden.
Community garden?
Yes.
Okay.
So Mike was right then. That is right in the community garden.
So they must be using it.
So here comes one big question. That's TURA land. Well, really, but you think about it, you know, why? I mean, it's not that it's a bad thing for them to be able to use it.
Right, right.
But who authorized TURA land?
Nobody
to be-
could have authorized
It does belong to this end.
Does that mean free vegetables?
What we should have done is found out who owns the adjoining or the rest of that.
Well, again, these are parcels of land that have sat there for many, many years. They're off the tax rolls. They're
Yeah.
land that could be used for something, especially at a time now when, you know, buildable lots where they're close to city utilities do not really exist within the corporate limits proper. It's something that we gotta consider. I mean, they've been sitting there, do we, you know, they have no purpose the way they are. And why, you know, if TURA owns land, there's gotta be a purpose to it. And it has to be for something that has, you know, some reason. I would think that we need to consider the next steps of seeing how we take these things to a public sale. There's, you know, there are other purposes for them to sit there growing weeds and whatever else. They could be buildable lots. They could put houses on those things quite possibly, and those houses become income producers for the cash rolls.
Are you talking about these 3,500-acre lots?
Well, not those.
No.
I think what we did, the one where the community garden is, if that's true, what did you give it to the community garden? I mean, it's, 3,500 square feet is not enough to build anything on.
It isn't. So I mean, you gotta find a purpose for it. But if you look at these big lots, and you're looking at
Right, and you could
37,000.
join that, you could join that one small lot with the biggest lot.
The big lot, and I think that's the, that makes that lot even more desirable. Yes, it's close to the interstate, but I think, well, it's a chunk of land.
Yes, it is. And then the other one is also buildable. You said that was big enough for two?
Yeah, it's 13,437, so 6,000 square feet is a buildable lot. So you're gonna have, you know, some land left over that could be, you know, whatever you could
Bigger
either
yards. Well, that was the reason that I had mentioned to Greg in the past that we get an inventory of the land because, you know, we have them and we know that two of those parcels have very little land mass or square footage, and you know, they're not gonna be of much, if any, value at all. But in the case where that piece is highlighted in yellow with the other large parcel, you know, that could be developable for homes.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I'd rather see homes on them than a lot sitting out there owned by a public entity that is nothing more than a weed lot. It has better purposes.
If it was me, I wouldn't build by the interstate, but what I would build is an apartment complex, which we're short of in this community as it is. So that might be, you know, low income, middle income apartment complexes where you have younger folks moving out of mom and dad's house, going to college, I don't know, some type of affordable living. Because I would myself personally put a $200,000 home by the highway. I used to live by there years ago, and the train and between the train and the highway, it's
Yeah. But
those are some thoughts.
There are some people that like them.
Yeah.
You know, if you, the
If they're
availability of a lot in town.
You would know more
Right.
being in the real estate business.
Well, I think a part of it, Louise, is part of the report that I gave the commission as far as the studies that I went through. We don't have enough homes for sale for middle income families to buy, and so they're forced to rent because there are no homes to buy. There are very few homes within the range of 110 to 175,000. And so given the option to have a home, you know, I think for the working public, that's the other thing in this executive director coined the phrase workforce housing. For people who are working and who need a home to buy, you know, so I think I agree with that. It's not an ideal location, but then, you know, it depends on the
Here,
income.
Maybe that's why they've stayed vacant, or they have, this tour is on this for how many years?
back to the mid-1960s, what happened is you had a lot of blighted areas at the time, and they went in, they took a lot of them, and took everything to the ground, and as time went on, it was sold, but for better lack of better description, this is forgotten land. Technically,
So it just kinda went under.
it's just been there, it's just been there.
I'm
And
pretty
so-
sure this is that big lot, and you can, it is
Yeah,
right
there's a
smack in the
cul-de-sac.
middle. Do you know where that is? That's right
It makes
smack
the curve.
in the middle
Yeah.
of those other apartment buildings.
The Casa Villa tubes or whatever.
Right, look at, right here, Ed.
Oh, I see.
There's
Yeah.
one there, and then if you turn it,
So there are homes there already.
those are,
Those are subsidized.
is that what the other?
It's
house is?
subsidized, yeah, it's subsidized housing.
Mhm. So that would be good for building more
Mhm.
of that type of housing.
Or any other kind, I mean, if it's buildable and somebody says, yeah, I'd like to build additional, they don't have to
But I
be.
wonder if it goes all the way to that end over there. You know, I mean, how far does this lot go?
And you can't tell from Google Maps because they won't drive
Yeah.
off the streets.
Well, here's my suggestion, is now that we know what we have, we need to determine if they can go to market, it would require a survey, it would require appraisal, and there's some steps to follow, but again, my underlying thought to this to begin with is, you know, we've got four parcels, of which two have minimal size and minimal value, but one of them can be joined with everything else and be made whole into something big. I see no reason for TURA to own the land.
Right.
I mean, it has better purposes, and the better purposes are if it can put structures on it.
Right, and someone might be interested, we don't know, with that large of a parcel of land on both of those, you know, whether they would, you know, if there would be interest out there unless you put it out there for somebody to know about them, because I agree with you, they're probably forgotten land,
It is.
you know, and so,
You wouldn't even get a person to look at it if they didn't know it was for
right,
sale.
if it was for sale, I
Right.
don't know. And, I think, I think there's some information, I think that's a good idea. And I think that leads us into kind of where we're going as far as when we look at these properties, of these ADO properties. You know, when we look at them, then we look at them from a different perspective.
And it'll put some money in our checking account.
Yeah, but I meant the ones that come our way through, the anti-dilapidation ordinance, is that we look at properties that have some value.
Well, it does, and I mean, if we sell these, we have revenues to do other things with.
Right.
We can accomplish some other purposes ourselves. I mean, it's a ball that gets rolling and starts getting bigger. So, you know, so shall I discuss this with Greg to get it to a possible next step?
Yes,
I think
Consensus?
so.
Yes.
I mean, they're just sitting there doing none of this
Yeah.
any good. Nobody.
Yeah, there's better purpose, and I think we need to go forward with that.
mhm.
I'd have them investigate with the CDOT.
Yeah.
Yes,
Verify before anything else, before,
I'm a little worried about that.
that'd be the only concern. I don't know if there's runoff issues there or right away.
And those apartments that one lot is by that we were looking at, weren't those originally an urban renewal project when they were built?
No.
Mhm.
They are federally,
They're federally subsidized.
Subsidized.
Yeah, no, it was built with private funds. The city of Trinidad may have sold them the land, I don't know, or sold it to somebody and then it got sold forward, but, I don't believe the city itself ever had anything to do with that, with the, construction of those apartments. Items for discussion on future work session agendas. I know we have at least one, which is our own properties.
Yeah,
And, yeah. And the ABO.
Yeah. So if you don't have anything tonight, and you think of something before we draft, or Greg drafts the next agenda, please get a hold of me or him, of what you want to get out of it.
and do we have, I don't remember seeing this, but do we have what properties are on the ADL list?
We
He's
don't
given
have
it to us
We-
before.
Yeah, we've been provided them for reference, and not very long ago, there's a Somewhere in there, it's in there, and that's where I got my information, I just saw that recently, and the list is on there, and it tells of those people, I mean, it's probably about 20 listings on there, of which some people have complied, and there was a response, something got happened, so they closed the book on those, but there are several on there that they've got no reply from, and there's no response on there, so they sit out there with no action.
Is it a possible agenda item for us to look at those properties, or at least,
Well, it's not really within our jurisdiction, that's the whole thing.
It's not yet.
It's not, at this point, it's not within our jurisdiction. It's something that, it could be talked about to some degree, but it's not within our jurisdiction until they,
Until
the
we
city
do.
decides they want us to do it, but it's not within anything that we would do right now.
Okay,
So we're basically waiting on completing the Monte Vista document to have teeth to go forward to
Not
do some of
necessarily.
those projects as
Not
well. So
necessarily.
the city's handling that.
The city already has an ADO in place, and they have properties that, this is actually far after that. So it's something that, we're trying to create a purpose for.
So the application is for the city.
For TURA, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were looking at, considering what other things are out there we can do, because, while we're there for our area of focus is, which is downtown, well, we're not getting a lot of knocks on the door, and we are not really actively going out and trying to put the press on anybody at this particular time, hoping that the new owners or developers will take it upon themselves to, make the renovations.
Thank you.
That's my thoughts anyway.
That makes sense, sir.
Are we out?
That's a little cloudy.
And do we haven't had any more, applications, I guess, for our facade?
We'll talk about that. I wanted to talk about that when we get to the reports,
Okay.
okay? Is there anything else that we want to discuss in work session before we go to our regular meeting? Not, we're going to go to regular meeting. This is the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. This is the regular meeting. This is April the 11th, 2019. It is 6:25 p.m. Roll call.
Walton, Lopez,
Here.
Matei,
Here.
Terrabino, Valani,
here,
Grego.
Here. Item number 1 is the approval of the minutes. An advance copy of the minutes was sent to everybody with the agenda. Hopefully everybody's had an opportunity to review.
I would move to approve the minutes as presented.
I second it.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Roll call.
Lopez,
I'll abstain.
Matei,
Yes.
Valani,
Yes.
Grego.
Yes.
Since I wasn't on the board.
And you can't, so we don't have a
So
quorum.
we can't.
Okay. So we can't approve them, so we'll have to take them to next month's meeting for, if we have Carol and or Mr. Terrabino here. So we won't do, they won't be approved because we don't have,
However, you were here.
Well, I was here at the meeting.
For the meeting.
but he was not an official.
Not an official.
Yeah, he wasn't an official.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So can we go through the rest?
Yeah, we can
The
still go on,
bills?
yeah. We got everybody to go on from there, but the minutes, I mean, technically, the people that would have been here at that point couldn't do it. Well, he was in the audience, but he was an appointed member, so.
I can still vote on
Everything else.
everything else.
Yeah. Okay, item number 3, acceptance of the financial report. Now, information was provided in the first set of minutes, or the first agenda that was provided, and there has been some amendment to that, which has been provided, and I think Brittany has provided us all this evening with an updated hard copy. I'm trying to figure out what I did with it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's it.
Do you have another copy of it?
Yeah, she gave me one, I have it in here somewhere, but I'm looking at, Luis's. You didn't get it?
Do you need one?
Yeah, I have one.
I got one.
Okay, all right, now, I'm fine.
Wait,
Okay.
Chair.
All right, is there a motion?
We can't,
Yeah, he can vote.
I'm sorry.
Is there a motion to approve?
Can we approve it without a quorum?
We have a quorum.
No, he's on the board, he can
He can now.
vote on this.
Oh,
Yeah,
he can.
yeah, he can now. He just couldn't approve the minutes because he wasn't, but as far as this
That's why I
action, he can approve. Yes, he can.
Okay.
So-
All right.
So do I have a motion?
Yes, I'll make a.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, one of the amendment to the information that we had, and I want, questions, comments for me, but one of the things that we had, when we got the first copy, there was a deficit in there related to the Kip Hamden project. And there was a deficit of $12,361.20. Now, you recall that last month there was a check that had been sent to us in the amount of $20,000, but it couldn't be deposited because it was lacking proper signatures on the developer's part. So we got that check, and so that takes away that $12,000 deficit, and it makes their running balance now at my computation is $7,638 is in their account. You have the 20 and take away that 12,361. I computed to be 7638 left in their account. Which then brings me to another question. With that deficit, wouldn't that then make our general fund balance go up by that 12,361? So then our number, instead of 170, would it now be 183, 174? And we may have to,
Oh, okay.
so if I,
You added the 20,000.
763880. So
It's
then,
the formula, is the problem.
yeah, so then that makes our bottom line from the 170, we add the 12,361.20. That should make our general fund balance at 183, 174.01. Sound right? Because that 20,000 coming in goes, that 12,000 goes into our general fund, leaving them with 763880, and then we have
I follow you now.
that.
Yeah.
It's all right. Now that may be open to change, but that's what I look at right now, because that number that why you have the amended numbers is because that $20,000 hadn't been added in there. So that shows that should bring us to add more to that 170. So do we want to accept it as that? And if there's any changes or amendments to that, we can make that change next month.
Yeah.
Yes, you want to revise, what do you want, revise the motion or?
Okay, and I mean, if you feel that I'm correct in my computations, because we're transferring money, we put 20,000 in, and we recaptured our 12,361.
Right.
So that takes our 170 up by 12,361.
So it brings up 20.
So our numbers show for our general fund balance to be 183, 174.01,
Yes.
and the balance on the Kip Hamden account to be 7,638.80. Okay. A motion and a second. With that, roll call.
Lopez,
Yes.
Tate,
Yes.
Maloney,
Yes.
Grego.
Yes. Item number 4, consideration bills. And there are 3 to be paid, and those 3 bills are related to the development agreement for Kip Hamden. There are 3 of them. One of them is for $562.50 from Anderson Analytics. Well, total amount due is $1,537.50. There's another from the firm of Malcolm Murray for $937.50. And a second bill from the firm of Murray, Dahl, Berry, and Renewal for $2,000. And again, those three bills are related to the Cape Hamlin
They're all Cape Hamlin.
development agreement. That money will be payable from the remaining balance of $76,3880, which would leave their balance after that at $3,163.80. So is there a motion to approve the three bills as noted?
Okay, the 937.50 is also included in the 2,000, is it not?
Yeah, it is.
Is
It's
it?
forward, it's a balance push forward.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It
so
is.
what happened is the email is being sent to the wrong person,
Oh, okay.
and so it looked like it was late and behind, but it wasn't. So they just lumped it together.
Okay.
So what we're paying is the 937.50,
And the,
1,062.50, right, for the 2,000 total.
Yeah.
right.
Okay. So that's the
So
Murray.
so it's not really three bills?
It's technically
So
two.
it's
Correct.
technically, so
And-
we don't wanna approve this one.
And 1,537.50,
Yeah.
right? For
It's
a total.
Anderson
that's
Analytics,
Anderson.
Analytics, $1537.50.
Mhm.
And so do we pay two separate checks, one for $937.50 since it's been
No.
invoiced that way?
No, it'll go once. I'm not sure why he included both bills, to be honest. But he did sign off on both of them, so technically, no, we're just gonna pay that one for the 2,000.
2,000.
And then
Okay.
both invoices will be included on that same check.
Okay, so we wanna pull this one then? It's 937.
Yeah, it's all included in
It's
that.
included for, to make
Yeah,
the 2,000.
Yeah, and then another check, and then the one to, Anderson Analytics for 1537.50.
Correct.
So I'll move to approve those bills.
Is there a second?
I'll second
Questions? Comments? Roll call.
Lopez,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes?
Valani,
it. Yes.
Grego.
Yes. And for information on, and this is, when we're talking about the bills we currently authorized to pay, there is pre-development, there was a pre-development agreement, and there is a development agreement being discussed at this particular time between the city of Trinidad and the La Puerta or Cape Hamlin properties, which is the La Puerta project down there. So there are the bills that we're paying, and the bulk of those bills that have been paid so far, which are in excess of $30,000, are for legal fees and analytics done by a company that has tweaked all the numbers and stuff, so they've been a part of it all. They've appeared at city council several times, and there's ongoing talks trying to get this project to where it is. So the numbers that we are paying are actually from amounts that has been paid and put on deposit in trust with the city by Kip Hamden. So the money that we're actually paying is, it came to us, we pay it out as a result, but that's what it is. Technically, it's their money. Okay,
It just flows through.
it's a
us.
flow through, yes.
Pass through.
Item number 5, petitions or communications, oral or written. And I don't believe there's anything. Item number 6, old business. No old business. Item number 7, new business. Item number 8, we just have introduction, and we did get to speak with our member that, Mrs. Leone, who wants to be, who is seeking an appointment to the Urban Renewal Authority Board. So that being said, if everybody is in concurrence, I will send a letter tomorrow to Mr. Sun to present or get on the agenda for the Trinidad City Council to review and consider for appointment on their next meeting. Item number 8, report by Executive Director. Mr. Sun could not be here this evening. He's out at conference, a lot of stuff going on over there in Aspen regarding DCI Trinidad and some others.
I wish you would've sent me.
Yeah, you know, it's snowing up there.
Yeah.
It's-
Good time to ski.
Yeah, so it's, but there's a lot of stuff going on up there, and I think Trinidad is mentioned in something. I saw something about what's going on. I think there's mention of something going on, what's happening in Trinidad.
When I talked to that executive director in Colorado Springs, he made mention of that, and something was gonna be talked about up there, about Trinidad,
Yeah, Trinidad is being highlighted, and I think it's for something good. I'm not sure.
It's governor's dinner
Yeah.
they're having, and it's for downtown Colorado Incorporated.
Yep.
And I believe TURA Marshall is
She's
receiving an
being
award
ordered, yeah.
as well, so.
well,
So that's why he can't be here, but he would have given some, as much information as he could, just to indicate or to advise that the development agreement is currently being discussed and negotiated between the city of Trinidad and Kip Hamden for the La Puerta project. There are several. Did you have a question?
well, I'm looking, was that the only thing he said? Because there's
He's got a
something
report.
here with regard to the facade program. Says report by executive.
Well, let me read it then.
Presented the first application.
I didn't get that. I'm not looking at that.
Alden suggested that the application include the application rate also.
Okay. I'll read it. I will, for the record, read what his report is. La Puerta, I reviewed the most recent agreement draft sent to me by La Puerta and have made extensive changes to better reflect the discussion during the recent meeting in Denver. During the meeting, we agreed to have La Puerta bid and construct the city's sewer transmission line project phase 1 in La Puerta itself, so we are not trying to time two projects that are to be constructed at the same space, in the same space. In addition, the hope is we can get some economy of scale. We also agreed that the developer, La Puerta, will be responsible for constructing the infrastructure, including the street. Finally, it is important that TURA be listed as a party to this agreement, as we further agree that TURA will manage the flows of funds from La Puerta and the city to the project. Is that what you're referring to? Okay, and what that is I have been able to see a bit of the draft, and the reason that TURA needs to be named on there is because when the part comes to the TIF, the property tax TIF, and or if the city allows TIF tax increment to come in the way of sales tax, it will have to come through TURA and then dispersed. The sales tax especially, the property tax, if that becomes a part of it, and this is the assumption that it's going to be in there, I think it's a wise assumption, that the property tax will probably be assigned, the procedure is assigned directly from the county to be sent to the developer. But the sales tax would have to be a flow through from city to TURA to the developer if the city agrees to that portion. So that's why he's saying that the mention has to be in there, because evidently it doesn't fit. If it doesn't fit the criteria, to clearly specify where TURA will be as a part of the agreement.
And that's gonna help secure that sewer line. Is that what they're talking about?
No, the sewer line, which there is the need for a sewer line to be constructed from Commercial Street to the sewer line. And that sewer line will go from its main point of connect, which is a carrier for most of the city of Trinidad, right next to that, right at that little bridge next to the river. That, they're negotiating how and who's going to get it through the project and through the project site, and then the city, has to continue on and get it down ultimately to the sewer plant. So that sewer line is a major factor and a major component to what goes on down there right now. And the city, I believe, is looking at the funding mechanisms of how to get it, because it's, he's mentioned like $2 million. I don't remember the numbers, but it's pretty expensive, but it's a major carrier, and with or without that project, it needs to
Isn't it
be
like
replaced.
a huge part of the city dumps into this
Yeah.
transmission line?
Yeah, it's a major carrier.
Is that why they're gonna start tearing up commercial again?
No, commercial's got other problems. The 400 block of North Commercial has had historical problems, and I think there are a variety of sewer lines located in there, so, I've got secondhand information, but.
And now with all the upswing in business down there, they're having problems?
I don't know if that's what it is or not,
Volume,
Is it north, south?
north of 400 block.
right in front of, the dealership, right in that strip.
Yeah, that entire block there has, and it's historically had problems, and I guess those problems are resurfacing, so, it's a matter of, but that's what's happening as far as the, development agreement. It's still a work in progress.
Okay.
Item number 9, reports by commissioners.
Nothing here.
Our newest commissioner, Commissioner Valani. I have only a couple of things, I covered one already, that there are, educational and development, sessions to be held here in the very near future and into the summer with the DCI downtown Colorado. And so, I'll make sure we get that information to our 2 newest members, but it's open to anybody to go. It's just a matter
Well,
of
I
getting.
saw where Carol was kind of excited about maybe bringing some training here.
It could happen. I mean, but it would be one where is it cost effective? Because I don't believe that they may not charge, but I think they do. And so getting it here may not be cost effective as it is to go to one of their room full of people sessions. But it's open to anybody if you wanna go to it.
Does that have a fee?
Yeah, but it's part of, we cover it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
You
just
have
a
a
matter.
budget for it?
We have budget for it, yeah, we just have to, make reservations.
I just came from a place that had budget for nothing for 2 years, so
Yeah.
I have to ask.
Luckily, we have money in our coffers that we're able to cover those kinds of things. The other thing of it is I'm aware of only one, and Brittany, do you happen to know if we have any other applications for the facade program?
Not that I've seen.
Okay, we had one application come through the door, and as we saw it last month, it was lacking a lot of information. I did visit with Mr. and Mrs. Huey down at the city carriage, told them and provided them with information, copies of our policy and other information, answered as many questions as I could. And they said they would gather that information and get it to me to see if they would, if they could get it, we could review it and determine whether there's qualifications. Not heard anything more back from them, but I did say at the last meeting I would follow up with them, and I did. So.
And that's a funding mechanism?
It's a funding mechanism. For explanation, when did we adopt that? August, I think it was. We worked on it for quite a while. And we allocated $30,000 in funds for the first of the pilot year. And the program is designed to, it's an incentive for people that want to, or property owners that want to do facade renovation. Our part is we will match up to 20% of the project, a maximum of $10,000, and we have an aggregate amount in our fund for the year of $30,000. And the program is designed for property owners that want to do work to their facades, but there may be some part of it that is not stable. And so if you do other things to it, and the facade is unstable and ultimately caves in, it was all for naught. So our program is to incentivize the part that if you need to do something to stabilize it, to get the beautification part happened or completed, that's where we would be.
Structural, right?
Yeah, and so it's a 20% of the project for a maximum of $10,000 on any one project. We have one application so far. That list, that solicitation letter or explanation letter was sent to all the downtown property owners. So, it's not anything that we say, well, they missed it in the newspaper. It went to every property owner of record. And got a few questions. I don't know how many questions you all might have received. I got a couple of questions, and we've got one application. We were hoping for more. And so, we'll see where it goes.
And the program's available to
Anybody in the downtown?
Downtown.
In the historic district, right?
And I think that
Historic
the most important part is that Main Street also has a cosmetic, right, program. So their facade program is cosmetic, so ours is structural. So we would stabilize, they would put the
Can the
lipstick
county
on.
apply?
Huh?
Yeah, you
We're in the historic
you
district.
need a lot of stabilization up there. That'd
You're in the
be
historic
a
district,
monumental project, isn't it?
Right now we are $900,000 project.
Oh,
Stabilize that building.
It's because of the wall?
Because both ends sinking, and then there's asbestos, so that's, the pavement project is happening right now. They're almost done. And then they'll start stabilizing. That's why there's cracks all over the courthouse, huge cracks, so.
Are they grounding or
amazing
what
to
are they
me that they
doing?
can
Are they
stabilize.
piering
They're gonna be both piering and mud jack.
and mud jack
Yeah.
grouting?
Straight line.
Yeah, straight line construction. That's, they're using another 10, 20 grand to.
Yeah, it's good.
They did that to the church last year, right?
So that's the extent of my report. I don't know if anybody else has any. That not being it, we'll go to item number 10, adjournment. Motion. Motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. There are no dissenting votes, we will call this meeting adjourned.